have people who join us from all over the world, and it's really fun to introduce you to each other and start creating this really incredible community. I know that no one wants to learn about Alzheimer's. No one wants to know how to take care of someone with dementia. You don't learn about it until you need to know pretty much everything right away to care for a loved one. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being one of the pioneers in this space, really committed to either serving your loved one in the best possible way that is backed by science, and although takes effort, is the way to reverse cognitive decline. Or thank you also for doing the work of preventing, for being committed to the process of healing your brain so that your children don't have to take care of you. Just to take care of the quick housekeeping pieces, the replay will be available if you signed up for this, which is why you're here. You got the link. You will get an email that will give you the replay link as well. And I'm going to leave some time for questions at the end. I get kind of excited though, so I'm sorry if there's not as much time for questions. Well, I'll take as many as I can. So Alzheimer's is optional. I believe this because I've seen even severe Alzheimer's get better. Nearly everyone can prevent dementia, and most people can even reverse their cognitive decline. I've just seen it. Now, it takes effort. It takes work. And when my goal, after seeing the results I saw in my clinic, in our clinical trial, we took 23 participants through a 6-month intervention, and a lot of people got better. The vast majority of people got better. The ones who didn't, they weren't able to implement. They either didn't have the support at home, or they weren't bought into the idea, the concept. They weren't willing to do the work. And I've had so many people show up in my office who get it. They want to do this, and they're like, just tell me what to do. Give me the support that I need to make this happen at home. And so that is my life's work, to make sure that you have all the support you need to get the maximum benefit from the Bredesen protocol. So I am a naturopathic doctor. I trained at Bastyr. You probably know me either through Marama. This is our opening day at Marama. That's me with Dr. Bredesen and some patients. And then you may know me also from the Reverse Alzheimer's Summit. And actually, I had some great interviews today. I'm in that ramp up. The next summit is going to be live in mid-June of 2023. So be on the lookout for those emails. It's totally free. You get access to hours and hours of interviews where, for the most part, me, but Dr. Bredesen's doing a handful of interviews as well. We are interviewing experts in this field who are getting really incredible results and kind of have their own expertise in certain areas. So today I have the pleasure of interviewing the author of a brand new book called Positive Caregiving. And you can get this on Amazon. I think it'll be released next month, but she was full of so many great ideas for activities in particular, and just enhancing the joy and kind of reframing caregiving. If you're a care partner to somebody suffering with dementia, I think in our society, we think of this as this burden, as this exhausting, like trudge. And she was just sharing how the people who choose to do that, when they get to the other end, they wouldn't give it up for anything. They are so grateful for the opportunity to have been there for their loved one and to have witnessed them and supported them through this process. So she has lots of fun ideas about how to basically make it just a more joyful, more grateful process. And so I can't wait to share some of that with you right now. So my inspiration comes from my patients. Many of you have seen or maybe heard me talk about Linda. She was the first patient I saw who struggled with cognitive decline soon after I was trained by Dr. Bredesen. So I was on his list of providers, and they were more confident. Linda and her husband were more confident in Dr. Bredesen's approach than I was at that point. I hadn't seen it work, and I had been told over and over again that you couldn't reverse cognitive decline. Well, Linda proved me wrong. Her MoCA score, which is the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, it's on a scale out of 30. Anything over 26 is normal. A 30 is perfect. And she had a MoCA score of 2. So on that scale of 30, she had severe dementia. She could barely answer a question with 1 or 2 words, with a yes or no. Her handwriting was affected. Of course, her experience in the world and her relationship with her husband was affected. And yet after just 6 weeks, her MoCA score went from 2 to 7. And you can see on the left here is her original MOCA score. And that box that she's meant to copy, that cube she's meant to copy, it's really small and up in that left-hand corner. She doesn't put numbers on the clock. And although 6 weeks later, it's not perfect, it's certainly, you can see it's so much better. She's starting to put the pieces together. I don't even think she got any more points based on this, but you can just see that her brain is functioning differently. Now, when I saw what was possible for Linda, I couldn't help but think what's possible for everyone else who's earlier on in the disease process. She was putting full sentences together. She was able to express herself, that she was hot or cold or wanted to wear something different. She was very into her clothes. So she was able to engage in a life that was meaningful again, that wasn't just going downhill, that was actually improving in terms of its quality. Her and her husband had more to look forward to. And no, it wasn't going to be easy, but it certainly was going to be a lot easier. And so since seeing Linda, I've seen hundreds, if not potentially thousands of patients like her. And I have seen the entire spectrum of cognitive decline, whether we're talking about prevention of somebody who's maybe at genetic risk to people who have suffered with severe decline, and helped and supported them through this process. So my goal is to help you. And so we'll dive into some of the details, but I also want to let you know that we have a live coaching course available. So you get the Marama at Home course, where we take everything that we've done at Marama and we make this available to you. You get live coaching with me in a group setting. So you get that value of community, plus you get into the private Facebook group. You get accountability. If you want me to hold your feet to the fire, I can do that. And you get accessibility. So I'm no longer taking new patients, but you get a one-on-one with me for 25 minutes when you sign up for this coaching course. You get the inspiration. Gosh, it's so incredible. I've had people in the coaching courses tell me, I didn't get into ketosis because you told me to do it, Dr. Sanderson. I did it because I saw the faces of other people in the group and I saw how they changed. I saw that they were more engaged. I saw that they were more present. I saw that they were speaking more clearly and eloquently after getting into ketosis. And that was what inspired me. And so if you want that inspiration, join us in the next coaching course, which starts in May. If you want that community, it's really inspiring to see couples who connect and realize that they're not alone, that they are in this with other people, and there are other people who have tips and tricks. I don't know it all. We learn a lot just from the group dynamic. And then that support. It's really incredible to have that support and those cheerleaders and people celebrating with you when you get into ketosis, or you get in on that new exercise routine, or you finally start sleeping through the night, or gaining weight or losing weight, or whatever your goals are. So activities at Marama. Essentially what I'm trying to do, what I want to do is just download my brain into yours, so that everything that I've learned about Alzheimer's and dementia and all of the things that we do in the clinic at Solseri and at Marama, the residential care facility, that you can do as much of that as possible at home. So last week we talked about the stuff in orange. We talked about food, and we'll do more of these. And there's lots of information about keto on the Solseri website. You can get the keto diet handout. And here tonight, what we're going to talk about is the stuff in white, is the activities that stimulate brain health and healing. So let's dive right in. One of my favorites, with lots and lots and lots of literature and support, there are big meta-analyses. So this is like the penultimate, the tippy top of research that shows us that KIRTAN KRIYA, this 12-minute totally free meditation, when done daily, improves memory in studies of people with subjective cognitive decline. So this is before you can measure it, when it's much more mild. And then mild cognitive impairment, when it's kind of measurable and you are noticing it. And then also in people who have Alzheimer's plus caregivers, there is an improvement in memory. It's been shown to improve sleep, decrease depression, reduce anxiety, downregulate inflammation, upregulate immune system, improve insulin and glucose regulation, and increase telomerase, or those end caps on our genetic information that give them integrity. And this is so, I cannot tell you how important this is. This helps with activities of daily living, with mood, with so many things that both caregivers and those suffering with dementia struggle with. And so if you take one thing away tonight from me, start Kirtan Kriya meditation every day. It's just 12 minutes. It's the Sa Ta Na Ma. And this picture here, the little square picture on the left is a picture of the residents doing it at Marama. And you can see in that little tiny TV that what they have on the TV is that YouTube video of this particular Kirtan Kriya meditation. And the reason I like this one is because there's no explanation at the beginning. You can just launch into the meditation. So I encourage you to do this totally free, just 12 minutes. Everybody has 12 minutes that we can commit to doing this meditation, and you will notice the changes in well-being generally. So again, this is a meta-analysis. This is the review articles of multiple studies. And this is so important and so easy, so accessible for those struggling with cognitive decline. All right. The next thing to talk about is exercise. So there are 4 types of exercise that I'm going to introduce you to right now. And exercise, if we could bottle this, there would be no such thing as chronic disease. Exercise is so helpful in increasing blood flow, increasing hormones. We now know that muscles are actually kind of more of an endocrine organ. They are sending signals, exerkines, we call them. They're signals from the muscles themselves that travel in the blood and can go to the brain, including brain-derived neurotrophic factor, as well as testosterone, a hormone. And these hormones support healthy brain function, and they stimulate the growth of new neurons, the cells in our brain, as well as new connections between the brain cells, the neurons. So the 4 types of exercise that we can do, what I would encourage you to do is some combination of these 4 weekly. So maybe you're doing one already, continue. Pat yourself on the back if you're walking. However, you showed up here because what you want is a miracle. You want to reverse dementia, or at least prevent it. Now, if you want to reverse, we got to work a little harder than if we're preventing. But if we're preventing and you're in your 40s or 50s, then get started now. It's so much easier to do this work if we're in prevention mode than reversal mode. Okay, so before I give away the types of exercise, let me know you're listening. Let me know you're here with us, and go to the chat and tell me what your exercise routine is like right now. And then brainstorm, and maybe you want to share this instead, but what is an ideal exercise routine for you? And maybe even start to think, what type of exercise am I getting? So I'm looking at the chat, waiting for everybody to tell us what their exercise is like. And I'll share, I row because that's been what's easiest for me. I'm another Heather that likes Pilates. Norma, thank you for saying pickleball. I'm looking forward to playing pickleball, but I'm a little bit afraid of it because I have terrible hand-eye coordination. But this is great. Hiking, I love it because you're getting outside in nature. Yoga once a week, stair climbing, fantastic. Strength training with weights and squats, love it. Rowing machine and the fitness table, fantastic. Oh, you guys, Zumba. I love a lot of these involve, especially like a Zumba or a class, they involve getting together with others, right? So we get that social connection as well as getting the benefits of exercise, right? These incredible benefits of exercise. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. Mountain biking. The other piece that's so exciting about exercise when you do it outside, you can do it with people, get that social engagement, and then you can get that connection to nature. So mountain biking off-road in a canyon preserve for 20 miles 3 times a week with my husband, that sounds incredible. You're getting that social connection, that love, like going on an active date, and you're having that date with nature, which is so helpful for our brain. Oh, and somebody's doing Livo too. I love it. Yay. Happy wiggle. Thank you I'm so glad that you're getting the benefit of that. And I love to hear your experience, Cindy. Okay. So types of exercise. What we're looking at here. Oh, I was looking at the chat and now it's not helping me. Okay. So aerobic exercise, the way that you can calculate the target amount of aerobic exercise you want to get is you take the number 220, subtract your age, and that gets you your target heart rate. So for example, if you're 67 years old, you take 220, and I'm getting out my calculator, get out yours too, 220 minus 67, and you get 153. And then you're going to want to multiply that 153 by 0.75. So 75% of that target heart rate, which is 153, and you get 114.75. So let's call it 115. And then you take that 153 and multiply it by 0.85. So 85%. And you get 130.05. So let's call it 115 to 130. 75% to 85% of your target heart rate is your of your maximum heart rate is your target heart rate. So if you're 67 years old, that target heart rate is in the zone of 115 to 130. So you want to wear something like a Holter monitor, maybe not a Holter, but a heart rate monitor to see where your heart rate is. And then be in that aerobic range if you're in that target heart rate range, you're in the aerobic range. And the goal, based on the Framingham study, the largest cardiovascular study that has been done to date, it suggests that about 150 to 200 minutes per week is how much time you want to spend in that target heart rate range to get the cardiovascular benefits. Now, you're also going to get brain benefits because the things that are good for your heart are good for your brain. It's really incredible. So you're going to get the circulation in particular. You're going to get reductions in inflammation. You're going to get those great signaling hormones. You're going to get those endorphins. And these things are crucial, absolutely crucial to brain health. So movement. The other type that many of you mentioned was strength training. So muscles are where, like, as I mentioned, those exerkines are coming from. And so weightlifting, Pilates, yoga, anything that builds your muscles is going to increase that signaling to the brain. And as we age, for some of us, these, especially for the females among us, as we age, our hormones tend to drop. And so a Bredesen protocol includes bioidentical hormone replacement typically. And if you are on the ketogenic diet, as we kind of put these pieces of the Bredesen protocol together, if you're on the ketogenic diet and you're older, some people are worried about weight loss. And as we get more strength training and get on those bioidentical hormones, what we see is that we get a shift in our body composition away from fat and towards more lean muscle, reducing our fall risk, improving our memory, helping us be more stable and stay younger. So strength training is part of a robust exercise program. Okay, the next two are the ones I'm really excited to share with you because they're a little outside of the box. Everybody knows about aerobic and strength training. They're really good for you, right? Do more. But when we do dual task exercises or the combination of cognitive and physical exercise together at the same time, we get almost exponentially more benefit. So the analysis of this in the literature shows a small to medium positive effect on combined using this cognitive physical combo on global cognitive and function. So basically global cognitive function, however you measure it, is getting better, whether you have mild cognitive impairment or dementia. It doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum of severity, you get a positive effect when you do this. And so we'll talk about examples, but first I want to just drive home how important this is and how beneficial it is. So after looking at this analysis, they also saw that there was a moderate to large positive effect with this type of combined exercise on activities of daily living and on mood. So this is massively, who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want better mood? And if you or someone you love is struggling with dementia, you know what it means to have control of your activities of daily living. This is your dignity. This is whether or not you can cook for yourself, you can dress yourself, you can continue to drive, you can go to the bathroom on your own, you can shower on your own. These things are so critical to a life well lived. And doing these exercises, again, this is completely free. You can do this at home. You can do this anywhere. For some people, this is as simple as going for a walk and quizzing yourself or listening to a podcast that's really engaging for you. For other people, it's just going to yoga or Pilates or Zumba or some class where you're cued by an instructor. Now, for other people, somebody like me, I tell people what I do is I'll go for a run or I'll get on the rower and I'll take a break from what I'm listening to from a podcast. I listen to a lot of Peter Attia. I listen to Andrew Huberman. And these doctors who really stimulate kind of what I'm thinking about in terms of brain health. And I will pause it and then I will basically have myself say out loud what I just learned from that podcast or from that section of the podcast. And that is how I engage my brain when I'm exercising. And you'll feel it. It requires more effort. I'm tired afterwards. And you should be too. This is very engaging. But even if you just do this for 20 minutes, you get more benefit cognitively out of this combination. So you'll see if you go on YouTube, there's lots of examples of dual task exercises. But I had a patient whose granddaughter would go on a walk with her. And you want to be right at that edge. So you want to be going quick enough that you're getting your heart rate up, but you don't want to be out of breath. You want to be able to carry on a conversation. Same thing on the cognitive side. You don't want it to be so challenging that you give up, and you don't want it to be so boring and not engaging that you give up and you don't care, right? You need it to be right at that edge of engagement and something that you're actually interested in. So there are examples of people reciting the presidents in order or the states and their capitals. But my patient, her granddaughter would go on walks with her, and she would quiz her on her grandchildren's birthdays, right? This is something that she was connected to and cared about, but she still had to think to remember, oh, Danny was born in the spring, so he must be April. I think it's April 4th, and she would go through and figure out, kind of talking through it, she would remember what the birthdays were, and then her granddaughter would correct her if she got it wrong, and she would commit that to memory. And then she would get quizzed again the next day when they went for their walk. And so this was a great way for her to be engaged and at the edge of her physical capacity as well. So you can Google dual task exercises. A lot of the clinics for traumatic brain injuries, as well as for Parkinson's, you'll see there's lots of examples of them doing this in clinics. And so use that for ideas. But essentially what you want to do, engage cognitively at the same time you're engaging physically. All right. The next one is called contrast oxygen therapy, or LiVo2, which one of our attendees tonight is using. And I'd love for you to share in the chat, if you don't mind, a little bit more, Cindy, about your experience with LiVo2 and how it's going, because I'm going to dive into that. And I know that our other attendees will be really interested in your experience at home. So this is a picture of what a LiVo2 or LiVo2 machine looks like. There's an oxygen concentrator. It's kind of out of the picture here, but I'll show you in another picture. There's an oxygen concentrator, and then this is a reservoir. And so what we're creating is a reservoir of really highly concentrated oxygen. So the air is at 20%. And that's what we're used to breathing. It's about 20% oxygen. A lot of it is nitrogen and other gases. But we are used to breathing 20% oxygen. And what we put in the reservoir is 80% oxygen. And so if you want to just exercise with oxygen, or EWOT, EWOT, EWOT is exercising with oxygen therapy. This is a great thing to do too. It can help you feel like you have more stamina. You can go further. It's a way to not get sore muscles. It's a way to introduce someone back into exercise if it's been a while. So you're wearing this mask, just like our resident here at Marama is, right, in this picture. So you're wearing a mask, and that mask through the tube is connected to that reservoir. So as long as you have this in the on position, she is breathing in positive oxygen at 80%. And this, again, makes you feel like you can go longer, further, farther, faster. It's great. Then where the magic really happens is when we go into negative O2. This is about 8% oxygen. So well below, it's not zero, but it's well below what we're typically breathing at 20% oxygen. And so you feel kind of starved of oxygen. It can make you feel hot and sweaty and anxious. But what you're doing is you're getting this hormetic effect. And so what's happening is this area under the blue curve, and that blue area with the H, you're actually getting this strengthening benefit. As you stress the system, you get more resilience. And that, I would argue, is a definition of health. The more resilient your system is to changes in the environment and to stressors, the healthier you are. And we need this more than ever as we age. Now, of course, if you went to zero oxygen for any extended period of time, that would be this area on the bottom in orange with the D, that's death. That is a weakening system. That is not what we're looking for. We are looking for that increase in resilience and strength. Other examples of this hormetic effect are other exercise, just exercise in general. When you're lifting weights, you're doing your bicep curls. That is stressing out the bicep and creating this hormetic effect that creates more resilience to be able to respond to that weight. When we fast or when we restrict carbohydrates or in the ketogenic diet, this is a fasting mimicking diet that creates more resilience in the system, more metabolic flexibility. Some people do this with hot and cold therapy. Maybe you've heard of Wim Hof or Wim Hof breathing. He's doing it with both oxygen, like we are here in a slightly different way, and then he's doing it with hot and cold. So we see this in several different ways show up. You can do it with temperature, calories, and with oxygen. And we never want to do it with sleep. We never want to restrict our sleep. We don't want to stress ourselves in that way. But we also see it with just life in general, right? If we're sitting on the couch as couch potatoes, we have no stress, nothing to push up against. We kind of lose it, right? We stop engaging, we lose the ability to. And so we want to find purpose and meaning and do things that are hard sometimes, because that gives us that ability to respond and stay engaged. Okay, so contrast oxygen therapy, how does it work? You're getting this vasodilatory effect where you're increasing tissue perfusion when that CO2 builds up. And then you're getting pressure changes in the microvasculature. So in that capillary bed where you get oxygen diffusion, you are getting changes that help with the nutrient availability in the cells. So it helps with that nutrient diffusion against it outside of the blood vessels and into the cells. You get this hormetic effect that we were talking about, this changes in cell signaling. So you get signals to the cell that actually tell it to increase the number of mitochondria in the cell. So you're able to make more energy over time per cell. And then the senescent cells also retire. So those cells that have been kind of like on the edge of being viable, they're not really doing their job anymore. You get rid of those and you start the recycling process so that you can create new cells and have those new signals put to work for you. So what we typically do at Marama is we get comfortable on EWAT, just, for 1 to 2 weeks, comfortable with the mask, breathing oxygen, getting back into exercise. And you can see that oxygen concentrator here. And then we introduce negative O2 in weeks 2 to 4 after people are really comfortable and confident. And then we push ourselves a bit. So we get into more negative O2 and then eventually spending about 2/3 of our 20-minute exercise in negative O2, really pushing the system. All right, so go to the chat and brainstorm. Is there anything you've learned from what we just discussed and the 4 types of exercise? Again, I'll go back to them: the aerobic, strength, combo of cognitive and physical, and then contrast O2. Considering those, what type of exercise will you commit to doing? And go to the chat and let us know what you're willing to change. That is actually the biggest thing in my book, from what I've seen. I have some patients who come in and they're running marathons, but they're also experiencing cognitive decline. So we mix it up. We want you to do something novel. Like the best thing for me would be pickleball because I don't know how to do it. And so that would be the best thing that would push my brain. It's kind of like any of these exercises or activities. What you want to do is lean into the things that are challenging. You want to do more of what's hard, which I know it takes effort. It's exhausting, but that is how you get a miracle. That is how you reverse cognitive decline. So if you hate math, if you don't like calculating the tip when you go to a restaurant, be the one that does that every time. If you are not that interested in language, start learning a new one. Music is one that a lot of people get into as well. So what type of exercise, we're talking about exercise and I'm getting excited about all the other exercises, are you willing to do now? Oh, yay. Looking into EWAT, heard Dr. Bredesen talk about it. Joan is going to start doing these dual task exercises, find more cardio in a group or other social setting, because most of what I do is now solo. So I love that idea of getting in multiple things, kind of checking multiple boxes in terms of what we want to create during the day, that social experience, that time outside, plus the movement. All right, great. Cindy is telling us a little bit of her story. Since I want lymphatic movement and bone building, I'm using LiveO2 with a rebounder instead of a bike. Oh, I love that idea. I'm curious if you have your residents stay in aerobic zone when on negative O2. Yeah, so what we do, this is a great question, Cindy. What we do is we actually have them sprint. And so they're doing their darndest to go as fast as they can when they're on negative, and then they recover on positive O2. I hope that answers the question. Wondering where to get LiveO2, and I'd love to try that. So Lily, LiveO2 doesn't pay me, just so everybody knows. This is not a sales call for LiveO2 at all. I just have seen how well it works for so many people. And so if you just go to livo2.com, what I typically recommend my patients do is go to a place nearby. So anyone who's in the San Diego area, there's a place called Fitness Genome in Carlsbad, and they have a LiveO2 machine. So you can go in there and you can get on if they have it on a bike, and you can try it out and see how it works for you. And then if you really love it, you can invest in one to have at home, because ideally you'd be doing it 5 to 6 days a week. That's the patients I have who do the best, do it 5 to 6 days a week. But the best way to figure out where they're available is just to go to livo2.com and reach out to those guys. There's a guy named Rob there and a woman named Annette, and they're really, really helpful. And I think they also have like a chat bot that comes up right away. And if you can find a chiropractor, a naturopath like me, or a fitness genome type place, that would be ideal to just go and at least try it and see what you think. Okay. And then who's going to hold you accountable? So if you have a new plan for exercise, I want to know who is going to hold you to it, because sometimes that's the hardest part. You just need somebody to be like, hey, remember you said that you were going to go do LiveO2. You said you were going to start doing dual task exercises. You said you were going to push yourself a little bit more, but I noticed that you're not. So who is going to hold you accountable? Sue, you have a great question about the Nordic track. Because your arms are moving, you can do it, but you just don't want to get tangled up. Like the rower, I wouldn't use the LiveO2 on the rower. Usually people are using a treadmill sometimes, although treadmills can get dangerous as you get older. We love the Schwinn Aerodyne. That's what we use it on. It's a bike. I'll show you. It looks like this. So you are using arms, but it doesn't, it just feels like there's fewer moving parts than with the LiveO2. Okay. So who's holding you accountable? Oh yeah, with the elliptical. That is another great one. And the rebounder. I love the idea for using it with the rebounder. And then add it to your calendar. Sorry, I feel like I'm having two conversations, one with the chat and one with our program here. So add this to your calendar, and then action item. What's next? Go post it on Facebook. Tell other people what you're up to. What routine? It's springtime too, right? Like who needs that bikini body for the summertime coming up? It's time to like get out there. The days are longer. We can do this. We can put this in our calendar. How are you going to hold yourself accountable if you have to? Or can you even reach out to someone, a sibling, a loved one, a friend across the country, and just let them know what you're up to? Sometimes just sharing it with others, like on Facebook, that or on Twitter or Instagram or wherever you want, that can be enough to be like, all right, I told everybody I was doing it, so I'm in. Doing it. Okay. So I did want to just share a quick story. When it was December of 2019, we had just announced that Marama was opening, and I was getting inundated with calls, which was wonderful and amazing. But one of them came from a woman up in Oregon, and her husband was suffering with cognitive decline. Now, she suffered with an autoimmune disease, and so was very dependent on her husband for grocery shopping and cooking and lots of things around the house. And she was in a panic. She was so concerned because they didn't have adult children who they could rely on. They didn't have a lot of money. They were really in a rough spot where if they were both to become dependent on others, they didn't have someone that they could really rely on. And so she asked me if I could do one thing that you do at Marama, what would it be? And I said, I have to have two. It would be the ketogenic diet and LiveO2. And they only did the LiveO2. And she also did a lot of music therapy. But, and I think she did that actually after she did the LiveO2. So what they primarily did was LiveO2. And she wrote me in March of 2020. So you can see maybe it was April. In the midst of this pandemic, we have some great news about my husband's condition. His intelligence had improved from 75th to 84th percentile. Memory went from 78th to 85th percentile. People skills went from 86th to 94th percentile. And navigation went from 87th to 96th percentile on Brain HQ. Wow, what a difference. This was one of, just these inspiring stories I get all the time. And it's so just like, it's so meaningful and so phenomenal and so great to share that there is a different story about dementia. Many people go to the neurologist and they have the experience of showing up and being told, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. Get your affairs in order. I'll see you in 6 months to measure the decline. And here are some drugs that don't work that well. When really it's almost overwhelming. Like I have shared the tip of the iceberg with you here tonight about what can be done to improve cognitive function. And really the top 2 things are diet and exercise. And there's lots more that we can do. And especially if you're struggling with those things, then join our class, please, because there are 11 modules that are just as valuable as this. And we go deeper into the activities and how to stimulate the brain. And this caregiver training course is available to you right now. And we're doing it with 12 weeks of live coaching plus the private Facebook group. And right now, this is only for $24.97. This also includes health coaching with our phenomenal health coach who is on the call answering questions, Tyler. She is fantastic and she can't wait to meet with you. So right now, if you purchase before April 9th, you will get an additional call with her. And you'll get 12 live coaching sessions with me. Plus, you'll get into the private Facebook group. Plus, you get that one-on-one kickoff call with Tyler. There she is. She's lovely. And then you'll get a one-on-one call with me. And again, I'm not taking new patients. So this is the way to get on a call with me. So please sign up now. We will sell out. We only have space for 50 people and we've already sold 75 in the past and people are raving about this process. We hear over and over, that people are saying, I didn't know to ask that question until somebody else in the group asked. And so they're getting questions answered that they didn't even know they had. And then in addition, so this is the Marama at Home course, plus coaching with me, plus the private Facebook group, plus the one-on-one coaching call alone with me so we can really optimize and hone in on what your priorities should be. And then plus the one-on-one kickoff call with Tyler that you can do right away, all a total value of $8,297 that we are giving away for $24.97. And in the future, because we have limited capacity, this will go up. So I am excited to share with you a couple of stories of people who've done this now. Like I said, we've had 75 people go through the coaching program and get so much value out of it. And so if you want to help others the way Denise did, her mama has been suffering severely with dementia, and she's an interior designer. And what she wants to do and is doing for other people is helping them intentionally design homes and move into homes and furnish their homes with the idea of aging in place and making it optimally safe, of course, but also optimally engaging for the residents in that home. So this Marama at Home course is really about putting Marama out of business. No one wants to move into memory care. Everyone wants to stay home in the fabric of their community, near their loved ones. And that's what I want too. That's what I want for everyone. And so this is the way to get the maximum benefit out of the Bredesen protocol, the way that Denise did. So her mom was able to stay in her home. Plus she's able to go, Denise is able to go out and with her work as an interior designer, help and support other people with what she learned in the course. If you want the freedom to travel again. So Mary reached out and her husband, Jim, had plans to travel the world. They wanted to go to China and hike on the Great Wall of China, like you can see here. They had friends and family to visit in Scotland. Machu Picchu was on their bucket list. And they had put this off. They were planning to do it when Jim retired. They had raised kids and that had limited their travel with all their sports games and events for years. And then they had been waiting. They had traveled a bit in the US mostly, But Mary was no dummy when it came to booking flights, but she started feeling very overwhelmed at the thought of booking flights and cars and hotels for their travels. And the thought of packing and even getting on a plane felt really overwhelming to her, especially after COVID. And so she realized that, like her mom, she was starting to struggle and have those early signs of overwhelm. And so now she's learning this reverse Alzheimer's at home course and doing the coaching. And they're doing everything they can to turn her brain cognitive health around. And already just getting into ketosis, she's noticed a difference. Now, then she got a little afraid of what's going to happen when I'm eating rice in China. But I know, just seeing her labs change, seeing how she's transformed, she and Jim, because he's eating better too, they are both going to have healthier, happier, safer, better travels because of how her life has transformed through this course. Lisa joined the course. She doesn't have dementia. She doesn't even have cognitive decline, but she just lost her dad recently to cognitive decline. And that was very stressful. She had sleepless nights, and she has two daughters and a son, and they all have kids, and she loves her grandchildren. And she doesn't want to put the burden on them that she experienced caring for her dad. And so she's ApoE 3/4, so she has the genetics, and she is working with us to make sure that she is making all the best lifestyle choices and getting the maximum support to optimize the Bredesen protocol and get all of these benefits, and feel better and healthier so that her kids don't have to take care of her. So when you log in, this is what it'll look like after you've purchased the course. You'll be able to log in to Marama at home, and then you'll see this on the other side. So you'll have access immediately to the caregiver training, and you'll be able to get in there, look through all the videos, get the worksheets, get the workbook, and you'll have access to Tyler as well, who's there to answer questions. And then we will see you for 12 weeks of coaching. And I want everybody to know that we want to take the risk out of this for you. There's a guaranteed, no questions asked, money back guarantee for 30 days after you purchase. So I don't want you to sit in confusion ever again. I want you to know that you are doing the very best for your loved one based on the latest science. I want to give you access and support so that you can implement this at home and never need a place like Marama. That is our goal. And so we want to get you all this magic at home. So make sure you follow those links and we see you there. You are the inspiration. Your care, your dedication, your commitment, your love, your perseverance, and your attention are what allows people to reverse this awful, awful disease. So thank you, thank you, thank you for the work that you are doing in your lives, even if that is for yourself, that you are preventing your own dementia, because that prevents other people from needing your support, right? From you becoming reliant on them. Okay. So in the last, there's questions. I'm going to the Q&A. If you have questions, please put them there. Thank you for the information. In the last webinar, you mentioned the keto guide. I looked on the website and couldn't find it. Okay. Yeah. If you go to solseri.com, there is a keto diet guide. There will be a pop-up that says enter your email address. I've already got your email because you got an email about this. So don't worry, we won't spam you too much. And you can always unsubscribe. But the first thing that you'll get is the keto diet guide that will come as a PDF. If you're having trouble, you can reach out to hello@Solseri and they'll send you the PDF by email. When we purchase the Marama at Home program, will we have the course long-term for ongoing reference, or does it expire? No, in fact, you will have the course forever, and we're going to be constantly updating it. And I shouldn't even be announcing this because I don't know what'll happen exactly next, but we have a prototype finally, and Tyler is helping with this as well. So thank you, Tyler. We have a prototype of our app. And so what's going to happen is all of those courses are going to get reworked and updated based on everything that we've learned. I'm constantly learning from the people I interview for the summit, from the books I read. Like, this is one of my favorites. I forgot to share it, Creative Engagement, about activities. There's another one, the 36-hour day. Okay, so I am taking all of what I'm learning from the clinical practice, from our research, from Marama, from the books that I'm consuming all the time, And we're creating an app that will create a daily schedule. So as I mentioned today, so many people come into my office and they're like, I get it. I understand that we should do this. Just tell me what to do. Give me the diet guide. Give me the recipes. Give me everything I need so that I can do this at home. And so what we want to do is make that really easy. So it'll be like basically check the boxes of like, all right, in the mornings, I took my medications and I brushed my teeth and I did my morning routine. I did the meditation. I ate breakfast, a ketogenic diet breakfast, high in veggies. And then here's a walk. I went for a 90-minute walk or a 1-hour walk. And then I did a brain engaging activity of creativity, and then lunch, and then activities after lunch, and then a dinner recipe. So you'll have your handheld basically through the day. And when you purchase the Marama at Home program, we're basically going to ask everybody who's done the program to beta test that. So you'll get that for free. Plus, in that app will be the caregiver training course, and all of that will be updated. And as long as you've purchased the course, you did the coaching course, you'll always have access to the latest and updated Marama at Home program. So we're really excited to get that out there. And we had some setbacks over the new year. But we're working with a new developer, and so that it's close. So we should have that by June when the summit launches. Can I share some ideas on what exercise to do if you have a problem with your knees? Yeah, absolutely. So swimming is one of those low impact exercises that a lot of people feel is not so hard on their joints. And then anything, water aerobics, also chair yoga. We do a lot of chair yoga at Marama, and you can do lots of things with your arms, working with a physical therapist as well to solve whatever the problem is with your knees is really, really helpful. I highly recommend that people utilize their PT and OT benefits and just max them out. Use whatever you can and get the benefit of working with a professional who will make sure you're not getting hurt and can accommodate any sort of injuries or problems with your knees. And they can design a program for you typically, so they can help you create a little routine or several little routines so that you have kind of go-to exercises that won't cause more further injury. And that's what I would recommend. Is there a heart monitor I recommend? Gosh, there was one that I used to use when I would go to a spin class, but I think they're just like the heart rate monitors that you put around your chest. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of them available. I don't have a particular one that I recommend at this point. From Kristen, for those of us on low fixed income, can I recommend any books? Yes. So for activities, creative engagement, this is a really wonderful one. How to Speak Alzheimer's. Of course, Dr. Bredeson's books, all 3 of his books are really great. So there are so many great books, and you want to kind of just take the what works for you, right? It's the luxury of working with us more directly is that we kind of optimize it and prioritize and help you individualize it. And when you have fewer resources, I get it. It's hard. I've been there myself. And so you just look through all the books and figure out what works for you and put it to work as best you can and focus on those things that are free: the meditation, the cognitive engagement, the exercise, and then the diet, changing your diet. Often when you add more veggies, it actually becomes less expensive. How do you do the meditation if your right hand is painful with our rheumatoid arthritis to touch the thumb and the fingers together? So just do the best you can. And if you just do it with one hand, that's okay too. It's really fun at Marama watching because people will get started. And this was some of the great feedback we got this last round of coaching was that people will start doing it and they'll peek. They'll like, look, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? And like they won't hit the right finger every time. And then over time, in like 2-3 weeks, they start doing it. They start getting it down perfectly. And this is like in action, watching those neurons connect and watching the neurogenesis happen, that they're able to do these new skills, these new like tactile, like physical things. So this is just amazing. I can't tell you how privileged I feel to be able to watch these things happen. So just do as much as you can. Even if you just say sa, ta, na, ma, that vibration is very healing. And if you never moved your hands at all, you'd be getting benefit. And there's lots of benefit of other types of meditation. I just point to the Kirtan Kriya specifically because there's so much literature that connects it to Alzheimer's, and cognitive decline, and even caregivers. So it's really specific to our conversation, but I'm a daily meditator and I don't do the Kirtan Kriya every day. I do it sometimes, but I do lots of other guided meditations and sometimes unguided. And I practice like a metta, the loving kindness meditation. So, and it makes me feel better. So I assume, I know there's lots of literature out there that also supports that. How do we do the keto diet if we're vegan? Okay, great question. I wouldn't do it long term because it is highly restrictive to be vegan and keto at the same time. It is possible, but it is hard. There's a woman named Kate Kunkel, Kunkle. You can find her on Facebook. She's definitely in some of the Bredesen kind of Facebook group. She's in my Facebook group and she's connected to me on Facebook if you find me there. She has a cookbook that is at the very least vegetarian. So she's much more plant-based. She also lives in Ecuador where it's very warm. And so you can eat plant-based and raw and lots of veggies. You don't need that warming, like in the doshic kind of Ayurvedic tradition, it would be like the more kapha foods. When you're in a really warm environment, you can have a lot of raw and uncooked and then less animal protein and get away with it. If you're in a higher latitude, I would, maybe in the middle of the summer, you could do a vegan keto diet, but just be careful and definitely work with a provider so you don't end up with B12 deficiencies and protein deficiencies and other issues that come with that. Does our chef purchase resistant starches? They're digested by the biome, just like water-soluble fiber. Dwayne, excuse me, that is a great question that I don't know the answer to. We actually have a brand new chef over. We had our last chef, Julio, he's moving on. And we have a new chef, Chris, at Marama. And then another chef, Nadia, in Wichita, who both of them are just so inspired and so fun. And I'm sure they're going to be whipping up new stuff these days. I'm excited to see what they create, and I will ask them about resistant starches. Can siblings take the course for one fee? They are all caretakers alternately for their mom who has severe dementia? I don't see why not. Yes, we want to work with you. We want to get your mom this support. So what they would do is they would just all join together. The reason we keep the classes at 25, and that's just so it can feel more intimate. People stop feeling comfortable sharing if we get too many people in the group. So I like it in that like 20 to 25 range. And then you really get to know each other over 12 weeks. And that so much of the value comes from getting to know each other and getting to see what other people are going through, seeing their successes, and then seeing, like what works for people and all these new ideas. And so we don't want to go up over 25, but I'm sure we can sneak them in somehow. And Dwayne, are there mentioned exercises and Livo2 endorsed by Dr. Bredesen? Because I don't see them in his books. Yeah, so Dr. Bredesen, he's really focused on the medical side. And of course, we're all talking about all of these things. He talks a lot about EWAT, less about Livo2. My experience has been with Livo2, so that's what I can speak to. That's what I see helps people so much. He definitely will discuss EWAT, and then also there's another one where you restrict blood flow. It has, I think, a Japanese name. Does anybody remember what it's called? Why am I blanking on it? Gosh, I can't remember what it's called. Katsu. Thank you, Cindy. Yes, katsu. So katsu is another way, chicken katsu. That's how I have to remember this. This is like a classic dish growing up in Hawaii. Katsu. So it's a blood restriction while you're exercising. That's definitely something endorsed by Dr. Bredesen. His experience is different from mine. And so he's my mentor. Obviously I follow what he says, but I also have this additional experience of what I've seen at Marama, what I've seen in my clinic, my patients that I've talked to. And so we're just going to hear slightly different things and be turned on to slightly different things. But he and I have discussed Livo2, and the dual task exercises. I'm sure he's familiar with that because there's great literature And he knows some of the people. He worked closely with the guy who started the Pacific Brain Science Center up in LA. And because he was at UCLA, he's still at UCLA, Dr. Bredesen is. And so he knew the people where the research was coming from. So he's very familiar with dual task. Matthew Linden is looking for suggestions about brain optimizing for my 88-year-old mother who is just beginning her journey into cognitive decline. Thinks she doesn't have any problems and may not be open to engaging in brain exercises. So, my recommendation, Matthew, is to not make it seem like she is doing anything for her brain. So, my experience of Sudoku and crossword puzzles is, yeah, if that interests you, you can do it. If it feels engaging and challenging, do it. But you're just going to get better at Sudoku and crossword puzzles. I love Brain HQ. I think it's fantastic. And we see people get better and it measures things and you get feedback and it gets harder as you progress. But just learning a new recipe. If she's ever played music, she's at the early stages. So would she be interested or open to like learning a new instrument if she was ever musical? If not, like singing along, getting involved in some sort of choir or group. If there's some group setting, does she like to play cards? Does she play bridge? That's a pretty complex game and requires a lot of cognitive effort. Cribbage, like where you're having to count or add, even poker and things like that. So would she be excited to play? To cook? What would she get excited about? And then encouraging and facilitating those activities. So if it means that maybe you never talk to her about doing a brain exercise, but you pick her up and take her to church where she meets with a Bible study. Is that something that she would be excited about? And could you facilitate things like that where she never even has to know that you're doing it for her cognitive function? I don't know if that makes sense or helps. Have I or Dr. Bredesen tried red light or IR light therapy? So Dwayne, great question. Yeah, we use a lot of red light therapy. So we use both the Juve light, and most of ours are and there's kind of debate right now in the field around whether or not to use that kind of mid 600 range. So the red light spectrum, you have your near infrared and your far infrared, and some of them you can't even see. They're not even in the visible light spectrum in the mid 600s and then the mid 800s. And then there's also the mid 1000s, like the 1070 and the 1040. And it looks like people are getting kind of slightly different benefits, but for the most part, the mechanisms here are pretty clear. There's a guy named Michael Hamblin out of Harvard. He published prolifically about red light therapy and how it works. And most of it is mitochondrial mediated. It's cyclooxygenase, something like that. Sorry, I'm forgetting the exact name of the enzyme that it increases. But as light reacts with the mitochondrial membrane, it essentially enhances things that can get across the membrane. And so you have an increased production of ATP. It's basically easier for the cell to create energy. And you can see this, like you can see it aesthetically. So people have fewer wrinkles after using the red light therapy for 30 days. And if you open your eyes, you are getting that red light penetration through the eye, up through the optic nerve, into the brain. Also, we use the V-Light, V-I-E, V-Light. We use the Neuro Duo at Marama, and it was really fun. I went to Wichita, Kansas a few weeks back, and we were doing some training, and a couple of the girls who were training with us have a lot of anxiety. And it was like a new day, a new job. They were learning all this new stuff. And we put the V-Light on them on the alpha setting, which is really helpful for anxiety, the gamma setting, more helpful for memory. And we use both, but we put it on the alpha setting for them. And they both just went like, whoosh. It was so fun to see. And they were so much more engaged for the rest of the day. They weren't anxious. They were laughing and giggling. And we see this with residents too. When you can get rid of the anxiety using red light, they become more engaged, they become more relaxed. They're not as kind of spun up and worried about things. And then with the gamma, we don't do anything in isolation, but there is good literature supporting the effects of gamma for cognitive function. So it looks like we're at the end of our questions and we're at an hour. So I am going to sign off and thank you all for being here. It's such a privilege to be of service and to support you in this way. And we will look forward to seeing you in the class in the Marama at Home course with coaching. Take care, you guys. Good night.